relatives must properly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all the listening acts of Moorish America. Moorish America must pay their dues and keep in line with all the necessities of Moorish America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Islam, with the recitation of our national prayer and the reading of our divine constitution and its bylaws, we now will officially declare our meeting open according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll be your host and instructor for the evening. I'm the Grand National Chairman, Dr. Elohim Plazabay, and we're going to have a very, very open class, a very rapidly moving class, so we encourage everyone, please, more to have your pencils and papers and your assignments ready, your literatures ready, your handouts ready, because we will be moving at quite a pace. I want to do a little unusual turn tonight in presentation of our chapter. And in so doing, we're into chapter 34, Sincerity. Holy instructions from the prophet, Sincerity. So I would ask you to draw your attention to Elohim's lesson 244, in which you have a combination of both chapters 34 as well as chapters 14 extended, both dealing with sincerity. But before I go into the chapter, I want to give you a little history, and I want to give you this history of Noble Drew Ali in conjunction with our chapters, so that when we go into the chapters, as we have handed out the commentaries, then you'll have a better understanding of what this chapter is really, really all about, okay? Now, so before I go into the chapters, I want to give you a brief history dealing with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Our commentary says the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. Our class tonight is founded upon number 40 and 41 of our questionnaire. Number 40 in our questionnaire says, what is our prophet to us? The answer is, he is an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah. 41, what is the everlasting gospel? The answer, it is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient father, by his prophet. Now, we've heard this question and answer hundreds of times, depending on how long you've been around Moorish science. But tonight we want to give you a truer definition of why it is that the prophet put this as special lesson before us. Remember, Noble Drew Ali prepared a table before us in the very presence of our enemy. But we could not eat from the table unless we were able to think. This is the utensil that we use to feed ourselves with. We must be able to think. That's why the prophet said that if I could just get you to thinking, you would save yourself, okay? Because this is the duty of a prophet, is to do what? Save nations from the wrath of Allah. All right. Now, bear in mind now what our key words are, question and answers for my questionnaire, number 40 and 41. What is our prophet to us? And what is the everlasting gospel? Now, what I want to do, I want to go into the chapters, Sincerity, but I want to do it in part, okay? And this is following the history of Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali, well, bear in mind, first of all, Moors, when I was speaking about the everlasting gospel and the fact that it is a saving power. Now, let me tell you the extent of the saving power, for one thing. you have got to bear in mind, call remembrance to your age. It took the entire civilized, if you will, world over 500 years to bury the Moors in such a shallow grave that they would be dead alive. The whole world could walk past them, see them, but they really didn't have, they had words, but they didn't mean anything. They had eyes, but they couldn't see anything. They had ears, but they couldn't hear nothing. They were powerless. They was buried in a shallow grave of denationalized names, Negro, black, colored, nationless people. They were made nationless. That's why I said denationalized. It means to take away your entire free national name, your identity. And we was in such a grave when Noble Drew Ali brought these lessons to us. But the lessons, being the power, having the power that they have, you had to have a magnanimous power to remove the kind of damage that was done to us by the nations of the earth. We're not just talking about the European nations. We're talking about every religion, and Judaism, Islam, Al-Islam, if you want to call it that, okay? The people of India, every nation on earth had a hand in our demise, okay? And the conquest of the Moors, once they conquered Egypt, they even made a symbol out of the Great Pyramid, place it on their seal of the dollar bill and everything. The men start wearing the fez, which was our heads, okay? But this was the state when Noble Drew Ali came on the scene. But bear in mind, now, he was born in the state of North Carolina, 1886, January 8th to be exact. But he had already, thousands of years ago, had been prophesied that the seventh angel would be born here in the West. He would be born with 1 foot on land, 1 foot on sea, and he would bring with him a little open book. In other words, when the book was open, it means that it had already been written. A lot of people here in the West, mostly his own people, want to charge Noble Drew Ali with plagiarism. He stole this from the Aquarium Gospel from Levi. He took it from the unto D.I. Grant and da-da-da-da-da-da. None of this happened. None of this is true. The truth of the matter is that Noble Drew Ali fulfilled the prophecies in order to save us. So he had to come with such a power that he could open up the coffin and exhume the body of his people, breathe the breath of life into them, and with such a magnanimous power and force that they was able to save themselves. Okay? And in so doing, this kind of a power, it was called the everlasting gospel. In other words, it's no turning around. It had nothing to do with time. Okay? It has no beginning. It didn't have an ending. It's everlasting. It's infinite. Just like your holy instructions, everything about you is divine. Okay? So, 16 years after Noble Drew Ali was manifest, he was 16 years old. And most of the people online right now has been 16 at one time or another, okay? If you can imagine yourself at the age of 16, they said that he had joined a carnival, a circus, if you will. And on this plight, as they was moving about the globe, Noble Drew Ali, as a laborer with this circus, was allegedly that's how he was able to get to Egypt. Well, it didn't make it down with, but the truth of the matter is that he did not have the kind of parental supervision that he was supposed to have. In fact, he sustained quite a bit of injuries as a child, from burning hot stove, all kinds of things as a child, until he was virtually by himself anyway by the time he was 16. This is void of all the relatives and mothers and fathers, etc. He don't really speak that much about his parents, and for good reason. He said he didn't want the Moors to be treating him like they did Jesus about Joseph and Mary. Okay. So anyway, at the age of 16, he found himself in the halls of ancient Kemet, in other words, Egypt. But bear in mind also now, Egypt, or Kemet, if you will, Egypt, Kemet to us, but what the world now calls Egypt, had been conquered several hundred years by the time Noble Drew Ali got there. Okay? But the people that had conquered Egypt, the European nations, they had not remotely began to take away from Egypt the saving powers that they used to civilize the world. Okay? And the reason why they could not take it because they couldn't, Rome stole everything and conquered everything that they could see. Buildings, pyramids, land, water, all kinds of things, jewelry, the mummies and what have you. But they could not see saving power. They could not see the gospel. They could not see love. They could not see truth. They could not see. These are spiritual things of the great God that come forth from the very heart of Allah. And since they could not see it, they couldn't steal it, they couldn't conquer it, so it was still there. Noble Drew Ali was also expected by the masters that was still about Kemet. Okay? And what I mean by that is that the prophecies has always been known and passed on, not just by word of mouth, but in writing as well, to all the masters of the earth. They've always prophesied. For example, you can, those of you who read the Bible, you can go to Revelation 10th chapter and read about Noble Drew Ali being prophesied, that he would come with the little open book. He would be the seventh angel, okay? And how the kind of book that he was going to bring was also, the reason why it was already written, because it contained the missing so-called 18 years of Yehoshua's life, Jesus, that were not found in the Bible, okay? And even to this day, you'll find that people who, they say the Bible is the word of God. No, it's not. It's the word of the Greeks. And that's the reason why you got 18 years of his life that's missing. Actually, it's a lot more than that, because he lived to be 105. But anyhow, they was looking for him and waiting for him because they knew the very day that Noble Drew Ali had been manifested. And to prove it to you, it was upon his birth that the little book began to be released to the nations of the earth at his birth, according to prophecy. Okay? And this book, known to the European as the Aquarium Gospel, that contained the missing 18 years of Yehoshua's life and many, many other things about him. But it was no secret. The adults have been knowing about this for centuries, okay? Even before it occurred, they knew. But anyhow, this is how it is that the different nations acquired these lessons, be it unto thee I grant, or different other books, which you will find these very same lessons that you have in your Circle 7 Quran. Now, the magnanimous thing about this was that Yehoshua would come again in the form of Noble Drew Ali, and he would be known as the Logo Circle 7. His entire mission was that of the seventh angel. Okay? The Noble Drew Ali was known as the seventh angel. And so, although they knew he was coming, they did not know what he looked like. They knew that he would be born here in the West. They knew he would be born amongst the people who had been enslaved for 400 years at that time, okay? They knew a lot of things about him, from the day stone, hide, everything. They knew about it. But they did not know what it looked like. And when this 16-year-old Negro boy, let me just call it like that, Timothy Drew, appeared in Egypt, then the masters had to go through certain tests to be assured that he was the master fully manifest, okay? And so this is what they did. That's the reason why I want to give you this brief history about Noble Dwali. One of the great tests that they sent him through was that when they took him to the Great Pyramid of Giza, and there they introduced him into the entrance, one of the entrances, the main entrance, in other words. And they told him ahead of time exactly what was to be expected of him and why, and was he willing to take the test. Noble Dwali agreed that he was willing to take the test. Bear in mind, he's 16 years old, okay? No European or Western education, because, they wasn't interested in sending our children to school too tough, no way, okay? That was born in the 1880s. Anyway, they took him to the pyramid and introduced him into the entrance, into the chamber, and the security, or the muftis, if you will, let him know, said, well, you go in, but you can't come out unless you come out on your own. Only the forefather and the great God will guide you through that. No one knows the way, including them. Okay? The very masters that put him into the test of the pyramid did not know the way all the way through and how he was going to come out. They knew he was supposed to come out, though. Okay? So that's what they did. They put him into and sealed it with security. And a day or so later, in fact, the whole day it went by, he later appeared through the paws of what is now called the Sphinx. That's not the actual name, but that's what he appeared. There's a doorway there that even the masters did not know about, because the pyramid, the Sphinx had been built that long ago, and it's over about a mile apart or so from the pyramid. Okay, and the passageway that led from the pyramid to the Sphinx was not known by anyone, but it was there. And especially from a little Negro boy born in the United States, okay? Now, he ain't got no business knowing about it. And he ain't never seen the pyramid no way. But nevertheless, when he came out, they knew that he was the Holy One, okay? And he had already passed the test, so their job then was to honor him and give him all the teachings and the saving power that he needs to redeem his people, because he indeed was the long promised last prophet in these days, the one that was ordained to come after the great prophet Muhammad. Okay? Remember, Muhammad is the seal of the prophet, but he was the seal of the prophet that was bringing forth the truth, the revelation of the truth, which is known today as Islam. Okay, the passageway from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. So Noble Dwali did not bring anything new. He brought the old-time religion to redeem his people with. He brought the same thing Muhammad brought, but he just brought it at a higher level because the people was buried much deeper. Okay? So with this in mind, now we want to bear in mind, remember this is the seventh angel, and like I said, you can read about this in Revelation 10. And the reason why I want to give such highlight to these chapters, chapters 34 and 14, is because the Moors, you Moors that's on the call right now, are so favored. You're peculiarly favored, particularly favored. You're very blessed, in other words. I know they got some word out about the thing about the word blessed, but it's all over our book, so we're going to keep using that. Anyway, you're blessed because the Moors in the past did not have the kind of knowledge or faith in the holiness of the prophet, because they missed out on two master keys. One was that he was ordained by the great God, and he was also assigned by our ancient fathers, okay, to do his job and to perform his duty, okay? Remember now, he was supposed to bring the everlasting gospel. And what is the everlasting gospel? It's a saving power that come from where? Allah, all right? Through our ancient fathers. So these are the ancient Moabites, okay? You're talking about the ancient Moabites, the Canaanites, the Hamathites. This is what collectively make up the name Moorish. That's why I say through our ancient fathers, okay? By his prophet. Noble Dwali is indeed the last prophet in these days and time. He's the prophet of Allah, the great God of the universe. And so let's go about the business of proving exactly what happened. So let's go back to the let's go back to Egypt. Let's go back to Kemet, okay? Now I want to call your attention. I'm going to skip about, because those of you I sent the handout to, LU lesson 244, I'm going to call your attention to the page that has the Circle 7, the Grand National Seal of Moorish America. The Moorish American nation is 1865 AD. It has that right on the top of the page, right on the LU lesson. It says chapter 14, Sincerity. But underneath of that, okay, chapter 34, Sincerity. Holy instruction from the prophet, Sincerity. But underneath that is chapter 14. Yehoshua received the mystic name and number past the first brotherhood test. So this is where we're going to start. Bear in mind now, you are actually reliving the journey and the life of our holy prophet. You're the first in the race to be able to do so. Listen. Chapter 14. Yehoshua received the mystic name. Oh, by the way, if I go further, Noble Dwali himself on many occasions said that he was Jesus come again. He said that many taught the Moses this all the time, okay? He even said that he was Muhammad all over, okay? Now, chapter 14, Yehoshua, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because I want you to keep up with the journey, all right? Yehoshua received the mystic name and number and passed the first brotherhood test. The master took down from the wall a scroll which was written down the number, the name of every attribute character. And he said, and this is the master in Egypt, in Kemet, okay, talking to guess who had just arrived there, okay? It goes on to say this. He was teaching none other than Noble Drew Ali. That's why, remember, he became known as what? The seventh angel. It's in the book of Revelation, 10th chapter, okay? He's in the last book of the Bible and the first book of the Quran. Anyway, we're going to, it goes on to say this. The circle 7, the circle is a symbol of perfect man. And the 7 is the number of the perfect man. And before I go any further, Moors, especially the sisters, please do not allow this term man with the absence of woman take you off. Okay? The plane we're talking about now is genderless. There is no gender. So don't get offended. Oh, that's the man thing or that's the woman thing. No. Please don't do that. Okay, we're here concerned about one thing, and that's the truth. So on the plane of where the great God is, there is no gender. There ain't no feminine, masculine, and all that foolishness. Okay? So let's take it for what it is. Now, going back, the circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and the 7 is the number of the perfect man. The logos is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. This Hebrew master is the logos of the Holy One, the circle of the human race, the 7th of time. And in the record book, the scribe wrote down, secretary, the scribe wrote down the logos circle 7, and thus was dually known, Yehoshua, okay? The master said, the logos will give heed to what I say. No man can enter into light until he has found himself. Go forth and search till you have found your soul and then return. The guide led Drew Ali to a room in which the light was faint and mellow, like the light of the early dawn. The chamber walls were marked with mystic signs, with hieroglyphics and sacred texts. And in the chamber, Yahushua found himself alone, where he remained for many days. He read the sacred text, sought out the meaning of the hieroglyphics, and sought the importance of the master's charge to find himself. A revelation came. He got acquainted with his soul. He found himself. Then he was not alone. All right. Bearing in mind, holding on to the next thing was, okay? The magnitude or the magnanimous of this special chapter gives us a lot of strength. Before I go to the next portion of this, I want to read this part. Our lesson goes like this. Noble Drew Ali returns to the Moorish. We're talking about the genderless plane, where things are made of thought. Remember, in Acts 7, Noble Drew Ali tells the Moors that all Moorish Americans must, and I know you will probably tired of hearing me say this, repeat this, but you must purify your heart and mind with love. In other words, you got to take God and clean yourself up, because Allah is love, okay? Now, the genderless plane. The first off, the Noble Ali brought you was a circle. The circle was the perfect symbol. Okay, it was a symbol of perfected man. Now, the reason why the circle is so important is because it means perfection. During the time of slavery, the one thing that was absolutely forbidden was for the slaves to never, ever form a circle. Under no circumstances. They better not catch them bowing down in prayer. Oh no. And prostrate? And don't be in no circle. You know, you have found Indians making a circle when they went on the warpath. So no, the slaves, they better not try it. Okay, and the reason why, because they did not want remembrance to come to their aid. Okay, that they were indeed the circle themselves. Okay. Also, the 7 of all the numbers going from 0 to 9, of all the numbers, the 7 is the perfect number. Why? Because that's the number for man. Okay? Meaning that everything is created, is founded upon 7. You got 7 layers of skin, you got 7 colors, you got 7 music notes, everything you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is based upon 7, okay? Then he goes on to, and bear in mind, remember your circle 7 now. This is your national seal, your grand national seal that Noble Drew Ali has brought to you. And look at where he brought it from, okay? He also, on your grand national seal, you'll find the logo, which is a word, and we just want to find the word logos. It means to be a rule or principle or controlling thought. The principal thought, okay? In other words, it means God, the great God at that, okay? So the logos is the word, or the magnanimous of the word, which means infinite. It means forever, okay? It has no boundary. It has no beginning. It has no ending. And this is what the word Allah. So I want to straighten this matter out, because a lot of more sometimes say, well, that's Arabic, and the Arabs did this, Arabic that. But see, you must understand, Noble Drew Ali said, when they're talking to his own people, he says, to whom do we, the Moorish, refer to at times as being the great God? And the answer is Allah. So at times, it's all right we say the word Allah, okay? Because why? That is the logos, that's the perfect word. But what does it mean? It means what? The great God. Okay, so you won't get it all twisted and messed up and get to fall out and think it's going to be nailed to a cross or something later, okay? So, and if you want to get the nearest place to meet the great God is where? In the heart. This is the same place that Noble Drew Ali wants you to clean up in the first place, okay? And bearing in mind that there was a reason why. Look at your Divine Constitution, Act 7, Act 6, I'm sorry, when Noble declared that there was a new era time now, and that where you had to claim your free national name. But he said that this is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, see, there it is, the definition again, okay? This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways, okay? So again, you have the logo, Circle 7, being explained to you, because this is your grand national seal, okay? This is why we have the flag made up. It's a white flag with your grand national seal. We also have the white flag with the grand national emblem, which is the crescent moon with the five-pointed open green star. And look, we were flying the flag a couple of places out there, and you ought to see them when the Arabs and the other Muslims see that thing. They bow down, Allah Akbar, the skin has to death, okay? Because they know that there ain't but one people on this planet that can proclaim to the five-pointed open green star. And when you got the red crescent moon in the last quarter, it means that this is the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. In other words, the seventh angel has arrived, okay? So, with this in mind, we want to bear in mind our chapter 14, chapter 34, Sincerity, holding stuff from the prophet, Sincerity. Sincerity itself is truthfulness, it's honesty, it's genuine, direct, it's natural, it has a certainty, it's upright, serious, authentic. Sincerity is open, loyalty. Sincerity is fidelity, it's integrity. There's a few of the things about sincerity. But how would you acquire this if you don't know what it is that you have? This is why you have to cleanse your thinking from all those negative thoughts. Stop looking cockeyed at each other, getting all kind of jealous and envious thoughts. Because that only brings a weakness, or in other words, it's bringing dirt into a clean house. You don't want to do that, okay? So it goes on to say that the master said that the Logos will give heed to what I say. No man can enter light until he has found himself. Go forth and search until you have found yourself, and then return. Okay. Then what happens? The prophet goes on to let you know that when it comes down to your actual lesson itself, it says those who are enamored, okay? This is chapter 34. And here comes the prophet with sincerity, but this is how he gave it to his people after bringing you your Circle 7 itself. Okay, it wasn't just the Holy Quran, it wasn't just the chapters. He brought you the whole symbol, everything. The perfect circle, the perfect symbol, the perfect word, the perfect letter. And I'll tell you how important that is. Can you imagine what this world would look like without any symbols, any numbers, and no words? Yeah, I said it. Can you imagine what life would be like anywhere with no words, no symbols, and no numbers? Now let's reverse that, turn it around, and find out that now what you got, you have a world where that we, us, our, okay, Moorish America, we've got the perfect symbol, the perfect number, and the perfect word. Okay? So this is what Drew Ali brought to us. Now let's look and see what the chapter reads like now. Now he's talking to his people. Holy instruction from the prophet. And this is why the prophet had to make instructions to us. Okay? Because we hard-headed. So they get holy instruction. Look, you're holy people. These are instructions for you. Okay? O thou who are enamored with the beauty of truth, and have fixed thy heart on simplicity of her charms. Hold fast thy fidelity unto her, and forsake her not. The constancy of thy virtue shall crown thee with honor. The tongue of sincere is rooted in the heart. Hypocrisy and deceit have no place in his words. He blushes at falsehood and is found it, but in speaking the truth, he has a steady eye. He supporteth as a man the dignity of his character. To the art of hypocrisy, he scorneth to stoop. In other words, he don't play that. Okay. He is consistent with himself. He is never embarrassed. He has courage enough for truth, but to lie, he is afraid. He is far above the meanness of dissimulation. The words of his mouth are the thoughts of his heart. I repeat that. The words of his mouth are the thoughts of his heart. Yet, with prudence and caution, he openeth his lips. He studies what is right, and speaketh with discretion. This is called Moorish science. It's not so much as to know the truth, but how to use the truth that you know. Yet, with prudence and caution, he openeth his lips. He studieth what is right, and speaketh with discretion. He adviseth with friendship. He reproveth with freedom. And whatsoever he promiseth shall surely be performed. But the heart of the hypocrite is hid in his breast. He mocketh his word or makes his word in the semblance of truth, while the business of his life is only to deceive. He laugheth in sorrow, he weepeth in joy, and the words of his mouth has no interpretation. He worketh in the dark as a mole, and fancies that he is safe. But he blunders into light, and is betrayed and exposed with dirt on his head. He passes his days in perpetual constraint. His tongue and heart are forever at variance. In other words, they just don't agree. He's saying one thing out of his mouth, his heart saying another. He labors the character of a righteous man. He huggeth himself in the thoughts of his cunning. Oh, fool, fool, the pain which thou take to hide what thou art are more than what maketh thee what thou wouldst seen. And the children of wisdom shall mock at thy cunning, when in the midst of security thy disguise is stripped off, and the finger of discouragement shall point thee to scorn. That's what happened with sincerity. Okay? This is what happened with the Circle 7 when you ain't acting right. In other words, for you to be what your Grand National Seal symbolizes, then you have got to come out from the slave mentality. You've got to come away from foolishness. Okay? You got to put aside those things. Dwelling went all the way across the Atlantic Ocean into the heart of the motherland to bring back these great blessings to us, to do one thing and one thing only, and that was to free us from mental slavery. Okay? He wanted to isolate and separate us from the wrath that we had undergone as sinners. Because everything we did, whenever you are not being yourself as God, when you're not honoring your God, the God that's within you, then you are committing a sin. A sin is a violation of universal order. It's a violation of divine truth. That's what a sin is. In other words, when you go against the great God, when you go against the order of things as it should be. Now, to prove you how significant this is, we are so naturally and descendantly close to the great God. This is why we had to undergo the worst, the lowest form of slavery ever performed to any nation of the human family, any people. No one has ever They talk about the Hebrew slaves. They wouldn't have stood a snowball chance here and with the slavery we had to go through. Okay? And the reason why our slavery was so degrading and denationalizing and, the reason why it was so bad, because we were so good, we were so close to Allah. That's why. Okay? We turned our back on our own creed and principles of our forefathers. We did that. When we got caught up into the Caucasus Mountains of Europe and following up them Europeans and amalgamating and marrying and catching on to Christian ideas and things. And, that's what caused it. Okay? We were not, at that day, who our forefathers were years before. And that's what happened to us, okay? So now, the first degree, the first test that you Moors must pass is a test on sincerity. If you wonder why it is, a lot more say, well, what about the money? No, we're not concerned about the money at this stage. But what good is money going to do? Slaves have had money. What good did it do them? Okay? A slave can have money right now. Oprah Winfrey is a big millionaire or whatever, billionaire, I don't know, whatever. Okay? But what good is she? Still a slave. Okay? So you can have rich slaves, but we're talking about wealth now. Okay? Something you can pass on to your descendants that they can treasure because it has power. Okay? Another thing about that word power is the fact that you're dealing with sovereignty. The circle 7 is your sovereignty. This is where you're able to get yourself recognized by the nation. A lot of them talk about the UN and say, what in the world are you going to do at the UN? You don't know how to be something different. You got more going to the UN every year, groups of them. Last time I was there, about 8 of them. Now I know it's more than that. And you got, and for what? You're still the same. You know, you go in, you can hear the shackles and chains dragging the ground when the Moors go to New York. Chain, 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 chain. Because they still have not passed the test, the first degree. They do not honor the circle 7. That's why you've got to purify your heart and mind. Why do you think Noble Dwelly gave you a divine constitution? I had a more. Just recently, today or yesterday, I don't know when it came through, but I got an email from a particular Moor, and he asked me, why do we call Act 1 the whole Constitution, and where can he get the information on this? And so I'm going to send it over to him, but I'll give the explanation to everybody in case anybody else got the question. A Constitution is known, a national Constitution is known by 3 components. Every national constitution on earth has these 3 components. In other words, so Drew Ali, he refers to the Constitution, he refers to the government on many, 5, he mentioned the word government on 5 different occasions in his bylaws, okay? And when he tells the Moors as an organization like the MSTFA, in Act 5, he separates, he distinguishes, not separate, but he distinguishes the difference between an organization and a government, the organization and the Constitution, okay? The organization and a nation. He makes that distinction in Act 5. So where in the world, and Act 5 clearly reads, in the Moorish Science Temple it says, this organization of the Moorish Science of America not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and Constitution of the said government. Now, what government has been spoken about? So that lets you know there's something that's already here on this page or on this Constitution, where that the government is already established. Where is it? In the original one that he had in Moorish Science Temple, it said the Divine Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple. Okay? So that lets you know right there that you have the Divine Constitution, and it also has bylaws. Where is the Constitution? There's a distinction between the Constitution and the bylaws. So where is the Constitution? This is what started the research. Okay? And upon investigation, you find out that every national constitution has 3 components. Number 1, it displays the form of government, the type of government, if you want to have that word, okay? Number two, it must have principles, okay? Number three, it also must identify the citizens, all right? You have all those three components within what is called Act 1, which is our entirety of our national constitution. Look at the Constitution of the United States, which is actually shorter than ours. Most constitutions is not that big. I was amazed when I did the research. France, the UK, many other national constitutions are very extremely brief. Okay, ours actually is longer than the United States Constitution, and it ain't but two sentences. our Constitution is only two sentences long, but it has all the necessary ingredients to make it a national constitution. It's got the form of government, which is what? A theocracy, a theocratic government, okay? It also got the name of the citizen, which is Moorish America. It also has the principles, okay, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all right? Within these principles, it lets you know exactly that you are the star. Okay? And you'll find these principles being reiterated throughout your divine constitutions and your bylaws. All right? So we're hoping that, and I'll pass the lesson back out again, but it's been a blessing more to speak with you and dealing with I wanted to show how the Prophet Noble Dwali brought the Circle 7. I could go into the crescent moon, the star, and our grand national emblem, and I could go into our flag and things, but that we'll say that for another time, and it's great in the same chapter, okay? But right now, if you want to concentrate, I want you more to concentrate on the logo Circle 7, your Grand National Seal, okay? Now, why is this the Grand National Seal? Because Noble Dwali said it was your seal, okay? Your seal, every nation has a seal. So what symbol represents us as a nation of people? Would it not be the perfect symbol, the perfect number, and the perfect word? Would that not identify you as the Moorish American people? I just asked a question, all right? So, anyway, I want to open up the floor. I'll entertain any questions that you may have. I want to also extend honor to Brother Anwar, who asked me to sit in for him tonight because he's in the process of going about some moving and some other things he's taking care of. So, but he's probably still on the call, but you know he's handling some other business. I told him I don't like it. One of my first jobs was being a Sunday school teacher, so I like it. I also send honor to Sister Mayaka Elohim for a great Sunday school class. He had it from 12 to and an extended period of time today. Much honor to her anyway.